now talk to Stripe. We're going to look up from a JSON document. This is under the web section, as it is going to be a request or a lookup done over the internet. We're going to put in the endpoint URL for Stripe, and just for the purpose of testing, I'm going to just add in quickly a customer ID so you can see what data actually gets returned. Now I can't make that request without authenticating with Stripe, so we'll do basic authentication. Now the way Stripe requires us to authenticate is just by putting the Stripe key as the username. However, Think Automation won't actually save this because it does need a value in the password box. So I'm just going to put the same in there, but it's not required for actually authenticating with Stripe. So we'll close that down. And if I make a test call here, you can see the data that gets returned from Stripe. Okay, and for the purpose of this demo, we're going to want to get the invoice prefix, and we need to assign that to a value. So I'm going to call that Stripe ID. Okay. Now the JSON that gets returned, I'm just going to return it as Stripe data, so it's stored, but we're not actually going to use it. We're actually only going to use this part here. Now, because this is hard coded, we need to update this. So, because this is going to be dynamic, so it depends on what's been sent over. So, Stripe ID, which is the variable we defined. So we know we're getting this from the database, and we're going to go to this endpoint, pass the customer ID in here, and then we're going to return the invoice number. Okay, so click OK. Finally, on the message that gets returned, hello to me, from Think Automation, the Stripe ID is, so we'll have the Stripe ID and the invoice the number is, and then we'll just return invoice ID. Okay, and a save, and now fingers crossed this should work. So at Bob, which is the bot we're effectively calling, alice@gmail.com. Go and get me that information from Stripe, please. And there we go. You can see a number's been returned here, which is the invoice number. We've got the Stripe customer number there. We'll just try it again. Bob, can I have cat@gmail.com? Can I have the invoice number for her, please? Or for them? There you go. Another invoice number has come through here. And just one more time, there is actually a Bob. It's going to be really confusing. A Bob in the database. So bob@gmail.com. Can I have the invoice number for them, please? There we go, and that's returned. So you can see how quickly it is to get up and running with creating a bot in Teams. It talks to Think Automation. Think Automation is then looking up against a database, grabbing a value, passing that across to Stripe, so it's going off to another system, getting the data returned, and then sending it back to Teams.